And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first ever podcast by the one and only KhAnime here. Tonight's podcast is titled From Carts to Discs. Instead of the usual modern gaming talk that we let some of my fellow friends down here always talk about, we're gonna sit back and unwind and reminisce of all the retro from humble beginnings to around now Generation 6. So before I get started, I'm going to introduce everybody here, starting from my left. Kanoshi, introduce yourself.
Hello, this is Kanashi Abominito. Uh, here to tell you that I don't know. I don't have an epic intro tonight, so
Oh, it's all good. Next up, we got one and only Red Fox. Go, sir.
What's happening, y'all? It's Mr. Red Fox here, and the only thing I gotta say is this: it's time to go back to school, old school, with some retro gaming. That's right. You better get your Konami code ready, because you're gonna need 30 lives, bitches.
All right, good, awesome. All right, Shadow Hero, introduce yourself, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Shadow Hero 43, and I don't know how I'm gonna top Red Fox's intro, but I'm gonna let you know which how I got into gaming.
Okay, that's fine. All right, Tuber, go.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Tuber5, staying alive. We're talking retro games, so enjoy the ride. So, for this podcast, I'm going to be, using my Windows 95 gateway PC with the CRT monitor, because today we are keeping it old school.
All right, thank you for all that. And this your host, the one and only KhAnime. Remind you constantly, folks out there, to keep calm and game on. Now, for the first thing we're gonna do, got now topics is anyone can tackle this first. I don't care who's first. I don't care who's last. What's your favorite retro console or consoles and why?
I would have to say the SNES and the PS2. I know PS2 is pushing it, but those are probably my two favorite consoles. Those actually, I would say the GameCube actually ups the PS2. Just the fact that Melee was on it, and Melee brings back a lot of memories, and the SNES also has a lot of memories attached to it. Not to mention Super Mario World, Chrono Trigger, and that Super Mario Collection game where they remixed or remastered all the Mario games and glorious 16-bit.
Yeah, that's Super Mario All Stars you talking about.
Yeah, that game. Couldn't remember it.
Well, mine was the Game Boy because of Pokemon. My childhood was basically Pokemon. I watched the series, I played the game, and the Game Boy wasn't even mine, so it was my brother's. So I played it a lot, and I also enjoyed the N64 because Pokemon Stadium. I played put so many hours into that, and when Mario Party was good and 1, 2, and 3, I enjoyed so much of that. So the Game Boy and the N64 are my favorite retro consoles.
All right. Okay. I just have one question. Did you ever erase your brother's file?
On which on Pokemon?
On Pokemon on the Game Boy, because you only had that one file. Did you ever erase your brother's file and then he beat your ass?
Well, funny story. A friend of mine taught me a glitch onto getting infinite Master Balls and Rare Candy and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So that helped me clear the game and get Mewtwo. But at some point, something happened that the save file got erased, and every time I started a new journey, I saved, but it couldn't save anymore. So I kind of erased it. So
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. I've been there. Okay, who wants to go next? And I'll go last.
I guess. I mean, I'll go next.
Okay.
I just have to mention the Atari Jaguar was my favorite retro. Now I'm playing.
You got me.
Where did you learn how to fly?
But I will say that my favorite retro console would be the Sega Dreamcast. I think it's safe to say it's pretty retro by now. And one of the main reasons why it's my favorite retro console is because of the fighters, because of the arcade goodness that I used to enjoy from Sega when they were still a hardware maker. When you had games like Third Strike, Vampire Chronicles, House of the Dead 2, Sonic Adventure, Ready to Rumble, Power Stone 2, Skies of Arcadia, The Typing of the Dead, Crazy Taxi 2, Street Fighter 3 Double Impact, Marvelous Capcom 2, Tech Romancer, Street Fighter Alpha 3, Fatal Fury, and all these other games that I haven't even mentioned. This is just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of younger gamers have missed out on a great era, and this was one of my favorites because Dreamcast was like the place to play those arcade style games in the comfort of your own home, and that's why it holds a special place in my heart. The Dreamcast, it wasn't a car, but it took me for a ride that I never wanted to end.
One question. Did you
Yes,
ever play Bangayo?
yes,
Oh man, I love that one.
that
And
game
I
too.
thought it was Gundam, but it was something else.
I had that game on N64.
Let's see. There
Was
was
it
a
64?
Yep. There was a
Wow.
Bang.io game on the N64, and then they re-released, and then they released. They obviously had one on the Dreamcast, but they also released a Bang.io on. They re-released it on the Game Boy Advance, if I remember correctly. Or no, not the Game Boy Advance, the DS, because
Okay.
that's a treasure game, and I love those treasure games. Um, my favorite retro consoles. I don't know, man. I've always been a fan of that damn Fairchild Channel F. No, I'm joking. The Fairchild Channel F had about 18 variations of Pong. So I will not talk about the Fairchild Channel F. I will talk about my three favorite retro consoles, and I'm not going to go into ultra detail. Just say it like it is. Even though I love the SNES, it was my first console, but while that was the game of my childhood, those were the games of my childhood. My favorite multiplayer retro console, the one that really got me, like when I was a teenager and playing games, was the N64, because so many iconic games that blew my mind were on that system, like Mario 64, GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Shadow Man, Gauntlet Legends, Bang.io Spirits. Resident Evil 2, the game that they said could not be put on the system because it wasn't. It was a cartridge-based medium and not a disc-based medium. Just so many things. It also had my favorite multiplayer games, like Smash Brothers and Diddy Kong Racing. That's like one of my favorite consoles of the 5th gen. My favorite console, the 6th gen, is a tie between the GameCube and the Dreamcast. Just because, damn, they're both so awesome. The Dreamcast had some great games. The N64 got a lot of really good ports of those Dreamcast games, so I can't get too mad at either one of them, but I'll give the Dreamcast the edge because the Dreamcast had Seaman, so with Leonard Nimoy talking to people, so this was like you could talk to the game and Seaman would do stuff like, you could talk to him like, what do you like, and he'd ask you questions, and you'd raise your Seaman, and then you'd mate, and then you'd die, and new Seaman would be born, and you could, like, one of them would kill the other ones and survive, and you'd start all over again. So those are my two favorite retro consoles. Not throwing any shade on the SNES or the PC Engine, but just my memories associated with those two consoles are greater than the other ones.
Just to be clear, that sea man he was talking about is a fish, a weird fish.
Yeah. It's not what you guys. It's not what you
Oh,
people were
man.
thinking. When I said Seaman, I mean literally SEAMAN. They like I don't know who I don't remember the developer who made this game, but they got Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock from Star Trek to do the intro and stuff. He's like, this is your Seaman. I can't do Mr. Spock's voice because that guy was a chain smoker for like 40 years, but just really awesome, really awesome, weird, quirky ass game. Like this was when Sega was just all out of fucks left to give. And some games came on that system that it was like, clearly they aren't going to make it past the next gen, but this is awesome.
Dr. Feelgood, that game that you just showed, it doesn't exist right now because we're in the past right now. We're in the 90s. Possibly.
I'm sorry. Well, let me show one that does exist that just got in the mail today.
All right.
This is retro gaming, my friend. Oh, PlayStation.
There we go.
So back in when Midway turned every sport into a no-holds-barred. Yeah. NHL Open Ice was the NBA Jam of hockey, basically.
Oh man.
Oh.
And I mean, you would flip people over with your damn stick.
Yeah. Like a
All right.
spatula.
Well, since you came in on the first question, Doc, first introduce yourself to whoever's watching, and first question is, what's your favorite retro console or consoles and why?
What's up, everyone? Dr. Feel Good here, aka Lord Dynamo, for those that know and fear me. Anyway, sorry for running late. Had to pick up my packages, and I will be stepping out within the next hour to take my wife to the airport, but I'll be back once I'm done with that. And as far as your question about retro console, what is my limitation? What are my choices?
You got all the way from home beginners to Gen 6.
Gen 6, so you're talking about the only... Dude, that's hard. Come on, man. Like,
Dude, I had to write it down.
Hold on. I mean, no, I know what choices there are, but it's hard because I can honestly say I love my SNES, just like I love my Genesis. I love them both equally, although back then I was a hardcore Sega fan. Not to the point where I would insult people that had Super Nintendo. We didn't do shit like that back then.
We did.
We may have come up with some reasons why our console was better or could have been better, but we didn't insult them because they had the opposing console. We just basically played each other's shit. But moving on from that, the 6th gen was probably my favorite, and that's because there were not one, not two, not three, but four competing companies.
Okay.
You had Nintendo GameCube, Sega Dreamcast, Xbox, and PlayStation 2. If I had to choose, my favorite, man, this is really, really hard. I can't believe you put this shit on me. Okay. I think my favorite retro console, by far, that I had the most fun on, put the most hours into, believe it or not, was probably the N64.
Okay.
I say that because I know I probably played well over 5,000 hours of Mario Kart 64. I know I still own the first Smash Brothers. And of course, back then we got the Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time. I mean, yeah, I'll have to say the N64 overall. I may have played my PS2 a lot as well, but as far as like just good old fashioned fun, yeah, N64, that's the winner for me.
All right. And since everybody went, is last but not least, my favorite all-time console or consoles. I got one for pretty much every, like pretty much the big three. They used to be the big three. I say big three. For Nintendo, come on, is it obvious what my favorite Nintendo console is? SNES.
SNES.
Okay, hold on. You told me to pick one all the way up to, and including all the ones of the 6th gen. How the hell you get to pick one from each gen?
Because he's the host.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you what, I got your damn host.
I think it's Fox picked two.
Oh boy.
He's the host. He gets to break the rules because he wrote them.
Now, my favorite all-time console is SNES. Mostly because, well, not only it was my first console. I played my first game ever with my mother, Super Mario World, and it was pretty much you had like, come on, just look at the library. That library is one of the most legendary in video game history. You had Nintendo stuff, your Mario, your Link to the Past was good. It has still my favorite Metroid, Super Metroid, has Earthbound. Even the third party companies some of the third parties was even at their peak. KhAnime with
Yeah.
Contra 3, Super Castlevania 4, Turtles in Time. Uh,
Cowabunga!
Good
It's
times.
shell
But
time!
but you know what? If I may make one statement regarding that, although I mean I hear people say that all the time that like the SNES was the ultimate console, and to an extent I agree. But let's not forget the only reason why it had the most support and a legendary catalog of games is because there was really only one other place to go. Today
yeah,
they have a lot of choices of where they want to go as far as developers. Even though they could have went to the Genesis, or if you want to include the TurboGrafx 16 or the Neo Geo, for the most part, I mean, they didn't have many choices of where they could go for their game. At least not, and also make some money. So to me, it is legendary, but I also believe it's because they didn't have the amount of choices they have today.
Uh, 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 I
I,
can see
I'm
where.
not saying
No,
that
no,
is the
I can
reason
see where
why.
you're coming from, but I have to say this: the SNES did not have it didn't have as large a library as the Sega Genesis, but like if you stack the two against each other, Sega Genesis had the bigger library. It also had been out about like 18 months before the SNES hit. But I will say this much though: the SNES has the more iconic library.
True.
yeah. All right, and speaking of third parties, look at SquareSoft back then. Final Fantasy VI, one of my all-time favorite RPGs. Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, Mario RPG. Uh,
Bring a tear to my eye.
Capcom.
Okay. Interesting tidbit.
Uh,
Pardon my interruption, but I did not know until last week that legendary Hironobu Sakaguchi actually worked on Super Mario RPG.
Yeah,
yep,
yeah, he did.
I
Hmm.
did not know that.
yep. Capcom.
Breath of Fire, Breath of Fire still.
Yep. Your Street Fighters, your Breath of Fires.
Ghosts and Goblins.
Yep.
Final Fight.
uh, Mega Man X, which is still by far my favorite Mega Man game. Period.
Oh,
Uh,
Demon's Crest.
yeah, I'm actually yeah. Oh man, that's
That game is off the chain, son.
and
Yep.
I can go on. It's not just Japanese third parties either. Even some Western third parties was good on that console. Like look at Midway,
Hmm.
NBA Jam.
Yep.
Remember Interplay? They did Rock and Roll Racing and some other
Yeah.
games. Um, and I forgot who did a Super Star Wars trilogy, but I thought they was
Lucas
pretty
Arts.
Lucas Arts. Yep.
And Rare with the Donkey Kong Country series.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I mean, come on. Man.
See,
Oh, and
That goes
guys.
without saying, does it?
Anime, you said oh it's a 6th gen, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me say what I just picked up, and I've yet to open it at this moment, but I just picked this up um, 2 days ago. You ready?
Yeah.
You see it?
Final Fantasy.
Final
Oh,
Fantasy
that's the
14.
collection with Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger.
Oh,
Yep.
sweet.
That is the shit, son.
And 4.
For $20.
What?
God damn.
You
And,
know,
and I'm going back tomorrow to pick up Final Fantasy Tactics.
Dude, you know
Oh
it
yeah.
hurts. You know I
You
got.
had a good
Hey,
time.
You
hey,
lucky.
hey, honestly, look, this is just for you guys on the podcast. I think they had like 3 copies. If you want a copy, let me know.
I already have Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy 4 on the SNES.
No,
Yeah,
I'm talking about
I already
if you
have
want
those games.
if you want Final Fantasy Tactics, just let me know.
I already have those games.
And then I also picked this up at Best Buy because I want to play Streets of Rage, 1, 2, and 3, but the Sonic Genesis collection.
Okay,
Yeah, sweet.
cool.
So
Sonic the Hedgehog one
you
was
told me to do
good.
more game capping besides Splatoon, so I told you I was going to take you up on it. I was already planning to, but now you see that I was serious.
Yeah.
He wasn't effing around, y'all.
So and lastly, the Super Nintendo it did some stuff that was pretty good for the time. Like look at the Super FX chip in Star Fox, the Mode 7 graphics. Tales and Fantasia actually had a vocal opening song.
Yep, Star Ocean, same
Yep.
way.
Yeah, so it was definitely a console that got pushed to the limit, it showed too, and almost every game that I've named or every game that I can think of that I've played still holds up. In fact, the Super Nintendo I currently have is still the same launch unit my mom bought in 1991. Still works
Yeah,
just
I still
Damn.
have my original as well. My original Super Nintendo, my Genesis with the volume knob.
fine. But I'm thankful that the SNES did not turn brown on me.
Ugh.
You mean piss yellow?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine didn't turn piss yellow.
Yeah, so
That
that's pretty much my favorite console. With the runner-ups probably being GameCube in terms of six. I would even say Sega Genesis, Dreamcast. PS1 was also good. PS2 was good. And in terms of kind of like the lesser known guys, I'm actually starting to gain interest in the TurboGrafx 16.
hmm.
Rondo
That's
of Blood.
that's a unique console too.
Yeah, I think my aunt back in the day had that, and I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing Bonk on it.
Yeah. All I'm gonna say is this: if you're gonna get a TurboGrafx 16, if you have the money, I would advise you get the Japanese PC engine and not the TurboGrafx because it was made with shoddy parts.
Hmm.
I think that's yeah. I can continue on SNES, but I don't want to drag this on too long. Any other things? Any other consoles you guys can think of that's your favorite or runner up?
Uh,
Uh,
well, does
Mine
GBA
is
count? I'm sorry.
Does what count?
The GBA.
Yeah, that's Gen 6.
let me ask you something. How could anyone forget the greatest console of all time? The N-Gage.
oh please. I don't even remember that well.
Or how about
If,
the other
if I
great
may,
console of its time, the Gizmodo, and
hey,
and
Oh
the
my
Tiger
gosh.
Electronics
The R Zone.
F-Force.
okay, you know what, Red Fox man, I just have to say one thing. You are a complete dick.
What? I
You know,
must be missing something.
there's someone whose parents actually bought them that shit. So before anyone says you're being harsh, I'm just saying those
No, look.
those things are sitting in a box in someone's garage or in their
What
basement.
was the Gizmodo?
It was made by this Italian mafia boss, and it was made to compete against. I believe it came out against the Game Boy Advanced. No. It was the DS, and it got its ass kicked because the games on it were garbage. It suffered from the same problem as the N-Gage, is that like in order to put games into it, you had to open up the battery pack and take the battery out, and then put the cartridge in. And it's just like nothing. It had all these technological features. None of them worked well. Like it could get on the internet using Wi-Fi, but not very well. It couldn't make phone calls well. It couldn't play games well. You know, it's standard, phone thing that goes on is that when you have a phone that plays games, it can't make phone calls well. It can't play games well. The controls are shit. The battery life is shit. Standard stuff.
Like Junpei Yokoi made handhelds,
No,
creating handhelds look easy.
there's a website called Gizmodo, so I didn't know.
There you go. Features over games does not succeed.
We want those features.
I want to go on Wi-Fi.
Alright, anything else for the first topic?
Well, I was about to say that even though my the Sega Genesis isn't my favorite, my first game that I ever played in my life, Sonic 2, was on the Genesis, so that's a runner-up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do like I do like Sega Genesis not only for the Sega stuff uh and other good games that I can think of, but there's one company that went full out on Sega Genesis, Treasure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
they went balls to the wall on the Sega Genesis.
Gunstar Heroes, oh my god.
Yeah. Oh man. Uh,
Well, there's one more thing I have to say about the consoles, and I'm going to be the minority here, but the 64 didn't age well for me. Like I can't go back to the 64 controller.
like I
See,
can,
now
but
you got to get out of here right now.
like,
Now you have to leave right now.
like I can go back to
First
64.
controllers. I'm sorry, but once you go to the 64 to the GameCube controller, it's a night and day. And
Let me,
if I could mod the 64 to play with the GameCube controllers, I would. But that controller, man, I'm sorry.
now see, for
Like-
me, it depends on the game. Like if I'm playing Mario 64, I can't play that with a GameCube controller. I tried when I would play my virtual console games on my Wii. Like if I can't play a game for the 64 with the 64 controller, it feels weird to play it with something else. For some reason, because I was so used to holding my hands a certain way when I played it on there.
And I would say that also for me it's a game by game basis. Like games like Conker's Bad Fur Day, I can go back and play Banjo-Kazooie, and also the TV that you're using too. Like I think you're better off using like an old-fashioned CRT television. I like the Sony Trinitron, so I mean I use that to play the retro style game. So on the HDTV, doesn't doesn't look all that flattering.
Yeah. But don't you know HD is the future?
Eh,
That's the
For some.
standard.
Way of the
Don't you
future.
know that?
I will also going to what Kenoshi said. Like in terms of 3D in the fifth generation, I can go back to 64 and some keyword is some 3D games on PlayStation 1, but for the most part, when it comes to fifth gen, I prefer 2D over 3D.
Yeah, me
overall.
too. Like the whole, I can go back to PS2 games pretty easy. That stuff doesn't bother me in GameCube games, but like 3D, like it's really hard to go back to a lot of those 3D games on the 64 and the PlayStation. And this is something. It was a tough thing, but it's something I had to come to terms with because like the really stylized games like your Banjo-Kazooie and Super 64 Mario, yeah, I can go back to those, but get into like your pseudo-realistic stuff, it's just really hard. And it's even hard to go back to Zelda after those 3D versions, after the 3DS versions came out. It looks so much better.
Kenoshi, you trying to get people to have some fire and pitchforks come to my channel, aren't you?
Blasphemy! Blasphemy!
Yeah, but I get what he's saying because I played Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes first, and then I went back to play the first one, Metal Gear Solid, on the PS1, and yeah, it wasn't pretty. So I get what he's saying.
Blasphemy!
I hear too because
No, I'm joking.
I tried to play Siphon Filter back in the day, and well, I couldn't play it now. Like I couldn't. I just couldn't deal with the graphics, but
Yeah.
for the most part, I can play through the old fish gen games, but it's a by game basis because some games haven't aged as well.
Yeah.
Versus
You know,
others.
one game that stands out despite the graphics, and the graphics still kind of hold up even today.
What's that?
64?
No, Sega Bass Fishing.
Oh God, no, no,
Hey, you know
no,
what?
Oh
That game is still fun with an analog stick, and it
no,
actually still looks okay given its age.
no.
To give more feel for the haters out there, make them more angry at me. Final Fantasy VII is a terrible, terrible game. I don't understand your love of it.
Okay, I can
Wow.
understand that. Um,
This channel's gonna get flagged, man.
yeah. What was the second question? We were gonna talk about games, like our favorite game of the retro game.
I think
Retro
Just
it's
what
console.
start.
favorite console generation.
Yeah. Let's continue on.
That's what starts so fun.
Yeah, that's two. You've taken it too far, man.
What is your favorite console generation from the home begins to Gen 6? I can either tackle this first, or one of you guys can tackle it first.
I'll take
I'll go first. Oh, you can go ahead.
the the sixth gen and yeah this the yeah the sixth generation and the fifth were my favorites.
You're gonna pick one, man.
Ah, man, that's tough. I can't. It's like choosing like
Favorite
Yeah, I
kid.
trust me. I know the feeling. When I felt the same way when it came to the first damn question.
okay. My favorite. I would have to say the sixth because what you mentioned before, like all the hardware manufacturers competing against one another. I think six was a special time. We had PlayStation 64 and the Dreamcast coming in, and I think that all of them had a really great, they had something different to offer. Like they weren't like twins, like twin. I mean, you had multiplats back then shared on all these platforms, but it wasn't like today where they pretty much share the same library with each other. So there was like a nice amount of exclusives on each system, and that's what stood out to me. It's the quality of the exclusives that I've enjoyed. Um, so yeah, the sixth generation is my one of my favorites.
I'd have to go with Tuber on that one, the sixth generation, just because I started to become aware of more games, and that's when I really started to be, I started to become even more aware of the DS. Because that's when I really saw some of the console fanboyism, like, we're going to start, as a community, we're going to start labeling these consoles like, oh, the GameCube's the kiddie console, the PS2 is this console, and then it's just, I was like 12, 13 years old, and these kids were talking about how the GameCube was a kiddie console, and it was just kind of interesting to actually start to see that. Not to mention that, you know, I kind of like a lot of the black sheeps of that era, like Wind Waker and Sunshine, and really really enjoyed those two games. And it was the end of the era. It was the end of
Yeah.
it marked the sixth generation. I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this too. Marked the end of an era. It marked the end of the golden age of gaming. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel.
Oh no, I totally agree
I
because
mean,
I say it over and over. When Sega left the hardware business, the industry had a shake up for the worse.
I'm not gonna go that far. I'll say that I'll say that the sixth gen was the end of the silver age of gaming. I'd say the golden age was really like maybe I want to say
The
maybe,
seventh gen.
no, it wasn't the seventh. I would say the golden age of gaming was of
The
retro
first
gaming.
gen.
Well, if you really want to get technical, it would be the second gen when the Atari,
yeah, yeah.
2800 and shit like that was coming around. Because
Hmm.
you had like five, six different console manufacturers running around, and all of them had games and shit.
Let me be the devil's advocate. Do we only see retro gaming as the golden age because we have blinders on and we were kids, or
No,
do we actually look at this objectively and be like, oh well, this is because sometimes I think we have our blinders on, we have our nostalgia blinders on, and sometimes we forget a lot of the BS that might have went on during that time as well.
That's I,
no, I realized that subjectively people might say that certain gens are the golden age. I'm just talking like in terms of like the sheer amount of gaming that was like available and shit like that. Like that's when like that's when shit was awesome. And then Atari tanked, and then it went to the crapper. and then they had to have someone come back and revitalize the industry, and and that
The rest is history.
the rest is history. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I can't really consider like Sega's Dreamcast to really be I mean I liked Sega in the 6th gen, but you could tell Sega was like, this was their last hurrah. There wasn't going to be anything after the Dreamcast, because it was like they were in the fuck it mode. They were like, we got nothing else left. We got to do something.
I kind of think I don't know. I kind of think that they really put out some great efforts on that console before they went away. I really think they tried the best that they could, but by that time it was already too late. In terms of their finances and the performance. And
Yeah.
I'm still the fanboy in me is a little bit bitter about what happened to them, because a DVD player like beat out a company like Sega that was that was gifted in creating these arcade games and all these other games. And I just kind of wish that they were still around today, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, my favorite gen was the 6th gen. Not only because there were 4 console manufacturers out there, but it's because each one really did bring something unique to the table. Even though there may have been multi-plat games, there were some games that were on multi-plat for 2 of the consoles. And it's like you see 2 consoles fighting over one multiplayer, and you see another 2 consoles fighting over a different one. It's like, what the hell? But everyone brought something unique to the table. I love the Sega Dreamcast because it was simple, but to me, as Ref I said, that was their last hurrah. But at the same time, that was them trying to correct the mistakes they made. But at that point, the damage had been done.
Hmm.
The damage had been done. So I think Sega made the best decision possible, even for gaming, but at the worst possible time.
Yeah, they said fuck it. And look, I admire a company that sees they're about to crash into a brick wall, and they're like, most people be like, I'm gonna put my hands in front of me, maybe brace myself. Say was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go head first, and maybe I can break through this brick wall. And it didn't work, but still, it was fun watching the shit happen.
And to me, it's like the Dreamcast really was like besides Nintendo, the only system out there that it really has some truly unique and creative experiences on it. I mean, PS2, loved that console, probably the most played console I had next to the Dreamcast back then. But to me, just like the Saturn was designed to be the perfect 2D console, and then 3D came out, and Sega tried to adjust for that, but really couldn't.
Yeah,
Dreamcast is
Hmm.
built to be the perfect arcade port console, basically a Neo Geo
Yeah.
at a budget price.
yeah.
Yeah.
But at
Yep.
that point, it's like it was too late, too
You
little, too
can't.
late.
They
And
couldn't overcome 3 gens of fucking up.
yeah, true. And to me, it's just like, if the Dreamcast would have somewhat succeeded, we have a different industry today, a better industry, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, you'd
I
have more
agree.
competition. You'd have more competition. You'd have one of the old ones. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, people don't understand when the old guard leaves an industry, that's not good for the industry, because there's no one who's going to replace the old guard. Right? There's no one to replace Sega.
I mean, there were basically 2 pillars, Nintendo and Sega for the most part. I mean, Neo Geo was there, but wasn't really there.
Yeah.
So it
And
was TurboGrafx 16, and so when you have 2 primary pillars supporting this industry, and they're both forcing each other to be better, and then one leaves, it's like, I hate Nintendo to carry on their weight on their own, but I can also say that Sega made Nintendo better. Not that Nintendo wasn't good, but it did make them better.
Well, it
It's
forced
true.
them to compete on a level that they weren't used to competing on.
So I listened to part of the debate a couple of days ago, and a couple of these people were talking about how the Dreamcast wasn't as great as people say it was. Is that also another problem of putting blinders on? I mean, I guess a lot of the stuff is subjective, but
Is it nostalgia? Well, I mean, part of it could be nostalgia because it was their last console, but I mean, Atari had a last console. We can all agree that thing was a piece of shit. So
Yeah,
Right.
I think that at least for this, like I just think that we're in a interesting we have an interesting perspective, like for people who kind of grew up like for a lot of people, the NES was like their, like one of their first early, gaming experiences, and to grow up and kind of see how the industry turns out, today. I think, that's a pretty unique perspective than people who kind of came in later on and maybe like say the seventh generation and figured that that was the benchmark for quality. So I think
Yeah,
that yes, nostalgia can blind certain people, right? But I think that there's a perspective there for people that grew up, in the earlier gens that I think can't be ignored either.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some truth in that because if you look back, games only had one focus: how to improve, how to improve my gameplay, how to make the player think, how to challenge him. That's what the main focus was back in the day. Yeah, sure, they tried to improve in the graphics, but I wasn't like movie like. But that's, I guess, why it's somewhat true that maybe it is nostalgia, but it was simpler back in the day.
yeah,
It was simpler, but also more complicated. And I say that because back then, like games and game creators, I won't say developers, game creators, they didn't take this shit seriously. Like today, gaming is serious. It got to be realistic. It got to be one-to-one realism with your actual life. It has to be accurate. They're taking it way too serious. It's more about competition and less about having fun. Back then, games are just like, I mean, that's the primary reason why NBA Jam made $1 million in quarters in the
Hmm.
arcades. It's
Yeah, I
one
Hmm.
of the
mean, we
reasons
had
why a
we
game like NFL Blitz could come in and actually beat out the competition with the likes of Madden and other football games out there. It's because that game was sitting around what? Hey, if you take a sport that
oh
almost
back
everyone likes, you just turn this shit on his head and say, hey, you know what? Let's give you football, no damn rules. Do whatever the hell you want to do, and it's gonna be nothing. It's gonna be a game just about highlights. I mean, that's just focused on fun, like Mario Kart. That was focused on fun. Even Streets of Rage, that wasn't a serious game. It may have had a serious story to it and a serious tone, but even still, you still had some type of superpower in the game.
yeah.
Yeah, I just think that goes. I think it has to do with the types of values that the older companies had versus the kind of like the values that are prominent in that came in the later generations. Like the Dreamcast to me like felt like an end of an era because that was when like the focus on like the arcade type of gameplay that you mentioned was starting to fade away, and cinematic gaming was kind of taking hold as the and the big the big budget types of games was taking precedent over those types of games, and they're like that was to me was like the beginning of that like kind of rising or being the main focus. Because even last year, like even like in with the Neo Geos and the Turbo Graphics and the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, like all those manufacturers, they made their own games. They were gaming companies that also had their own hardware. So I mean, even though we had multiple consoles back then, but they had different values that shaped how the industry was being ran.
And that's true. And I think that's part of the reason why shit is falling apart too. Because as you just said, back then every company, every console manufacturer also made some of their own content, some of their own first party games. Even
Hmm.
Microsoft did when they launched the Xbox. Like people forget about this game. It was their first mascot, in my opinion, but Blink's the Tomcat.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
actually had a sequel. The game was the first one was good. The second one was actually even better, improved upon the first one in every way. But next you know, Halo launched, and that was it. Say goodbye to basically games focused on fun, and now it came more about competition and realism.
Right. Like the
Even though
mask.
Halo wasn't really a realistic shooter to me, but that was kind of the start of like, hey, guess what? Get rid of these damn mascots and let's start doing some things that are more realistic to to life. And it's like I miss superheroes. I
yeah,
do
and
miss
then
the quirky
Yeah.
characters.
God of War popularized the QTE phenomenon that we're suffering through right now.
No, they had QTEs
Well, yeah, I know
before
that,
God of War.
but it was more prominent. It became. I think God of War made it more prominent, more acceptable.
And see, none of these companies well, not all of them, but most, are just basically saying, the hell will make my own product. I have someone else make it. The creativity is gone because what business, what console manufacturer in the right mind would want to make a half-ass game that may not sell when you're spending your own damn money on it, and all the risk is on you? That right there, that made you want to create a great game. That's why Sega made Streets of Rage.
Well, they made Streets of Rage because Nintendo had exclusivity with Final Fight. They were like, well, shit, we need a fighting game too. We need a brawler too. So they,
I mean,
limitations.
but look how this shit turned out though.
Yeah,
Like,
but limitations breed creativity.
Mm.
And if everything is so easy and you can just pay someone X amount of dollars, I don't. Let's continue with it because I think we started to hijack Cage
Oh,
Anime.
y'all fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I apologize.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I just want everybody to get a turn on the what's everybody's favorite console generation.
Yeah.
Who has? I haven't went, but I'll go ahead and go. Generation 4, because when you think about it, that's the last console generation where every console maker was only about video games, and we didn't have Sony who does like everything meeting in terms of entertainment like TVs and whatnot. We didn't have Microsoft that does more than just video games. They do like computers. So Generation 4, it was like the last like true generation of just game makers making consoles, and it wasn't just Nintendo and Sega either. You had NEC, you had SNK, and that was also when pretty much a little bit of Gen 5, but not really, but mostly in Gen 4. You had take for example, I'm using Street Fighter 2 as an example. It would sound different on SNES. It would look different on SNES. It also sound and look different on Genesis. It'll sound and look different on Game Boy compared to the arcade perfect counterpart. And that was the last. That was also the last generation where it might be like the same title, like Aladdin, but it'd be different on different consoles. And that's the last console generation where everybody used cartridges as the main format medium. I mean, yeah, we had some CD add-ons, but those are add-ons, not actual consoles.
Fair enough.
Okay. I was about to say, if I hear Gen 6 one more time, I'll flip the table. No, but seriously, my favorite is the 6th gen, but not because of the Dreamcast. It's mainly because of the Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
I was a big Sonic fanboy back in the day, so I wanted to get most of it. I got Sonic Battle, I got Sonic Advance 1, 2, and 3, which Sonic Advance 2 is the best. Let's see. Mega Man 0 and Battle Network.
That's a good one.
Hmm.
That whole trilogy is good, actually.
Mm-hmm. Missing you.
All right, that's fair enough. Who hasn't went yet?
It's a play for the door.
I'll go.
Okay.
I love the 4th gen because that was the last console war that actually mattered. And because they fought each other with games, not stupid ass PR that doesn't mean anything. Although Sega tried with blast processing, but we won't go into that. Basically, they fought each other with games. It was like, and they would constantly go back and forth with games, and it was awesome. Like, Sega would be like, we've got, let's see, what was like Sega, like Nintendo would be like, we've got Final Fantasy. Sega's like, we got Phantasy Star 4. Sega would be like, we've got Crusader of Senti. Nintendo would be like, we've got Link to the Past. Basically, they would fight each other with the only thing that really matters with a game console, the games. And that was awesome. Not to mention that they fought each other with trying to add features, but features that were slave to gameplay. So Sega had the Sega TV, and Nintendo in Japan had the BS Satellaview, where you would friggin' like it was interactive gaming. Like you could play like a side story for The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, where if you play it at certain times of the day, like a dude would fucking talk to you and give you advice and shit about how to beat a level and stuff. I mean, this was a level of innovation that you just like in interactivity and people trying to one-up each other with games that was insane. And you had Hudson Soft and the NEC TurboGrafx just off to the side, just doing whatever. But we won't talk about them. And whatever the hell Atari tried to come out with in the 4th gen, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that was the last console war that mattered.
Yeah, I would even say even some of the Sega didn't really make much money off it, and actually hurt them in the long run with these add-ons. I would say, well, not counting 30 Fest because that was just garbage. But the Sega CD, it was actually a pretty good add-on. It had some good RPGs and it had Sonic CD.
Agreed.
Yeah.
What was it? Lunar 1 and 2?
Yeah, that's
Pop
good.
Mail.
Okay.
Final
I'm gonna
Fight.
say something.
And Final Fight CD. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna say something, and you might hate me, but Sonic CD is my least favorite Sonic of all.
That's like the best one ever.
I don't know what it is. It's just I don't like it.
It's all about Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Yeah, I see.
The
I
best
hate
Sonic of
3
all
and
time
Knuckles.
is Sonic Adventure. Now shut the hell up, all of you.
I hate Sonic. I hate Sonic and Knuckles. I
There's
really
no
do.
hype for Sonic.
Sonic Adventure 2 is a terrible game. I agree with that. But I can't remember his name.
Think about it. Sonic
Pro
3
Jared, yeah.
Was not.
Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I mean, that was pretty. Having Sonic and Knuckles and then that lock on chip and then you put Sonic 3 on top, that's pretty much double up on content. That was
No,
pretty cool.
Yeah, I love Sonic and Knuckles, and I especially love Sonic 3. So yeah, I think as far as 2D Sonics, those are probably some of the best.
No, my favorite 2D Sonic is the first one because that was the
Not
game
the
that
second one with Tails?
No, the first one because the first one had the best music in my opinion. The first one had you start out with the Green Hill Zone theme music, which sounds fucking awesome, and it's just the second one had better gameplay mechanics with the spin dash, and you had the best 2-player mode ever because basically you stay alive as Sonic and your friend kills the boss as Tails because Tails is immortal. But
like everybody talks about the Sega sound chip, but I kind of like that grindy sound it has to it.
Oh, you mean the sound that sounds like someone's gargling with ash?
Hey, Sonic 3 had the regular Sonic 3 has Michael Jackson. Hey.
Well, allegedly he wrote some of the music, but no one has found definitive proof of it. So I'm not giving it to anyone if there's no actual proof of it. The only thing I'll say about Sonic is this: I like the first game, the second game I like, the third one I was like, I don't really care about any of these people, and Sonic and Knuckles I was like, this could have been Sonic 3, and. Like, the more characters they add to Sonic, in my opinion, the worse it gets. Like, when it's just Sonic, it's great. When it's Sonic and Tails, okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah,
but once they got the
like
Knuckles and a bat and a fucking gecko and a big-ass fucking cat and a female hedgehog and an evil twin hedge, I'm like, no.
Well, hold on, back up now.
That's when I dropped off.
I think Shadow was a cool character.
Until Shadow the Hedgehog came out.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
You know,
I'm saying,
Shadow was cool until he was riding a Harley.
When they came to Sonic Adventure 2, he was a cool ass character in Sonic Adventure 2. But
until he was riding a damn Harley. It's like you're supposed to be faster than Sonic, and yet you're riding a vehicle. And it had guns and shit. I'm like, what the?
Yeah, don't remind me, Shadow the Hedgehog.
hold on. What about
The ultimate life form.
What about Silver?
What?
Silver.
Oh
Silver.
no.
Oh, fuck
Oh
him
no.
too.
He
No, I
debuted
didn't.
on that wonderful
Let me put
Sonic
it this way:
06.
if I hate Shadow the Hedgehog, Silver, like I would love to take Silver and shove his head up Robotnik's behind and then blow them both up at the same time.
It's no use.
And yes, I said Robotnik. I don't know why they changed that damn character's name to Eggman.
Because it's a Japanese name.
I liked him when he was just Robotnik.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't remind me of Shadow the Hedgehog game. Cause wanna know why? I had it on GameCube.
Yeah,
I
I
had
had it
I
on
had it too.
GameCube too.
And
That was
I
one
Sonic
of
got rid of
just
it.
I was like,
the last until Sonic Colors, Sonic home console game or decent Sonic game, was Sonic Heroes on GameCube.
well, that was a remake of Adventure 2, wasn't it?
No, Sonic Heroes had the team gameplay.
That was the best. I
Yeah, it was decent. I mean, it got like a 75 on Metacritic, which is pretty much the score I'll give it. So
I missed out on that one.
I put in more than 100 hours on that game.
I want to check it out though one of these days because I played Sonic Adventures 1 and 2, the old Sonics of course, but I didn't and even Shadow the Hedgehog, but I never tried Sonic Heroes.
okay.
The story is cringeworthy, but the stages are awesome.
Hey, I haven't heard any of y'all talk about Sonic 3D.
Oh
3D
no,
Blast?
I didn't care for Sonic 3D Blast.
Yeah, I didn't like Sonic 3D.
Mm-mm.
It was okay.
Like,
But they made him so slow in that game.
Yeah, that was a problem.
It was like a slightly faster version of Bomberman.
yeah, but the thing is this: Sonic only does two things. Okay, he runs fast, he collects rings. That's all he really does. That's what he's good at. So why would you make a game where he's not running fast and he's collecting rings, but he's not running fast? I mean,
Collected
it's
flicks
in his
too.
damn name, Sonic the Hedgehog. And I mean, that's my favorite. My favorite 6th-gen games on the GameCube were. I loved Phantasy Star Online. I had one. I had Plus, which was 1 and 2, and I loved Skies of Arcadia Legends.
I'm gonna let you finish. The best GameCube game is Paper Mario Thousand Year Door.
Yeah, I have that game, but I was talking about the Sega games.
Oh, the Sega games.
But that game is, I mean, Thousand Year Door is like the best. It's like one of the best. It's the best Paper Mario game.
I think, did everybody go to this second topic?
I think we did.
Okay. Alrighty. Next up, what game? In terms of retro gaming, what game stood out the most for you? It can be like in terms of graphic fidelity, music, gameplay, aesthetics, whatever. And it could be a popular game, or it could be a game that hardly anyone knows about or franchise. Uh, I'm gonna tackle this first. Not just a game, but a franchise. Metal Slug. That whole franchise stood out for me, and it's
Yeah,
like
as
pretty
far as the
much.
shooting, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you take what made Contra so good and make it just like and enhance everything. Like anytime I can just like get a bunch of points by eating food, but I eventually turn fat, and my knife my combat knife turns into a fork. That's awesome. Then it's like the graphics just pop out. Everything's all like cartoony and full of expression. And they make even the characters are pretty. The characters aren't that original, but they are pretty good. Then they got them machine guns and all the weapons were funny. They're good to use. They had one called Drop Shot, which was like it was like bombs just bouncing up and down and kills people. and then all the different vehicles you can like use and pretty much destroy everything, which was awesome. And it got the first one came out. I got the whole collection on PS2 Metal Slug Anthology, and it seemed like it seemed like it got better and better. 4 was kind of like the least one, but other than that, it just kept getting better and better. Especially the third installment. I kid you not, the final stage is like 30 minutes long. You go from flying a helicopter. It's auto scroll, and then you fight the original boss, final boss of the first game, and then you find out that it was an imposter, and it was an alien. The alien captures the person you was using, and then you pick another person, and you go into space to help to rescue your friend. And there's a vertical space shooter portion, and then you finally get into the base and do some magnum, use a running gun like Contra, and it's just it's way over the top but awesome. Uh, and the music is pretty good too. And it's simultaneous co-op, so it's it's I mean, as much as I love Contra, but in terms of running gun, Metal Slug all day.
Okay.
All right.
Any of
Well,
you guys ever played any of the games from that series?
Oh, I love the Metal Slug series.
I love Metal Slug, but I like the vehicles.
The first one is my favorite,
Yeah,
followed by Metal Slug X.
yeah.
Don't forget that announcer. He don't say rocket launcher. He say rocket launcher.
Yeah. I like the music of Metal Slug. I like the transformations. I forget which one where like if you get bitten by a zombie, you become the zombie Metal Slug person, and you're all zombified, but you can still kind of shoot and jump, but it's really slow and because you're a zombie. There's
Yeah.
another one where like if you get hit by like these projectiles that these mummy dudes throw at you, you become mummified and junk. I
Yeah,
always like those transformations they had.
yeah.
It was
I
kind
forgot
of
to mention
interesting.
that too, but I still like the fat one the best.
Yeah.
And like when you duck, you can crouch and uh, walk while crouching, but when you fat, they'll actually sit on their butt and just scoot. And when they and every time in the transformations, they got their own unique death animation. So when you fat and you take a hit, you pop like a balloon. If you're a zombie, your body parts fall down, kind of like Ghouls and Ghost style, but not quite. Um, and I think that's all the ones I can think of. And also,
mm,
if you get electrocuted, yeah, if you get electrocuted or burnt, it's kind of like Tom and Jerry style. It's pretty funny.
okay.
All right.
Okay, so me, and this is the reason why I had to write this down because there's so many. Um, for starters, I like action platformers like Mega Man X, Mega Man Zero because I like the challenge. I mean, Mega Man Zero final boss, I think it was. No, I'm not gonna mention it just in case you didn't play it. But you finished him, and then you go to the is another form. It has like 2 or 3 life bars on it, and then you finish that form, and then sometimes he gets one true final form, and it's almost impossible. That I think only masochists clear those type of bosses. And other things that stand out to me are RPGs. Pokemon, Tales of Symphonia, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy IX, which Final Fantasy IX is my favorite of all.
Yeah, that's my favorite PS1 Final
Um,
Fantasy.
and yeah, I guess that's it. Because
Okay.
I can mention more, but those are the two that most stand out for me.
What's the question? Sorry, I stepped away for a bit.
What games stand out the most for you? It can be like one game in particular or multiple games. And when I say stand out, it can be like graphic fidelity, aesthetics, music, gameplay, and it could be just a single game, multiple games, or like a franchise. And I mentioned Metal Slug and Shadow mentioned like Final Fantasy 9 and some other ones. Mega Man Zero too.
I'd say Wind Waker would be one of them.
Yeah.
Chrono Trigger, Majora's Mask. Um, Siri, what else? I'll say Kingdom Hearts too. Like, yeah, I think that the story's convoluted, but I really enjoyed, the BS that was in that game. Stuffing Final Fantasy and Disney characters together. It made no sense, but there was something about those games that were fun and entertaining, and
Uh,
that's kind of what games are about. Just a bunch of nonsense and you're still entertained, you're still having fun.
okay. Uh, Red Fox, go.
All right.
Or Tuber. I don't care.
I was a huge fan of Final Fantasy IV, aka Final Fantasy II. Just because of the opening of it and the music. It was the first epic Final Fantasy we had, because up until that point, like the ones on the NES were very limited for their time.
Yeah, the remakes made them much better with the PS1 and stuff.
Yeah, Super Mario 64, just because I was one of those people, I didn't think they could translate the Mario formula into the 3D, and then I played it and I was like, shit, they did it. Same thing with Ocarina of Time. I was like, they can't, because I mean, if you're coming off A Link to the Past, like, how are they gonna top that shit? They did. Well, they didn't. They didn't top. They didn't top Link to the Past, but Ocarina of Time is definitely a worthy 3D version of the things we've come to know and love in Legend of Zelda. Like GoldenEye, obviously. Some people say that Halo was who don't know their gaming history, that Halo was the four-person, was the multiplayer, co-op, whatever, multiplayer. It was the console multiplayer game shooter. But, I already had that experience a generation before with GoldenEye on the 64. So, yeah, that game was off the chain. Skies of Arcadia Legends, like, people are always pointing at Final Fantasy VII and 8 and 9 and 10 and all that stuff, but really, for me, Skies of Arcadia is so much better than those other games. I'm sorry. I know those were worked on by Hironobu Sakaguchi, but Skies of Arcadia, so awesome. That's about it.
True. Where's Drew when you need him, so he can talk about his Panzer Dragoon.
Panzer Dragoon. I like Panzer Dragoon, but it's too short.
Yeah.
That game, you can beat that game in like 3 hours, and for an RPG, like I need 80 hours for an RPG, like 50 to 80 hours. I can't, if I can beat an RPG in like a night, that's not cool for me.
Okay. Tuber, go.
Well, I mean, for the sake of time, I'll only name 4 games that stood out to me. One of them had to be Neketsu Kakuto Densetsu for the Famicom.
Well, how to
Kunio-kun.
translate for us?
Kunio-kun.
Yeah, the Kunio-kun game. Most people know the series from River City Ransom that came out in the U.S., but with this game in particular, this game was basically a 2-player brawler where you and a friend, you get into a tournament and you fight other schools, and it's just a really awesome game because you can like pick up weapons, you can throw them into like danger areas like electrified fences and all that stuff. So I think it's pretty underrated. Wish it came over here. Another one is Guardian Heroes for the Sega Saturn. Just the fact that it's a 2D multiplayer action RPG. Just tons of fun. Another underrated game that it stood out to me because of its treasure. I mean, they're awesome. And another one is Street Fighter 3 Third Strike for the arcade or Sega Dreamcast. I would say because it had a blend of good gameplay and good music too. That jazz music, man, it was epic. Really got my blood pumping when I played it. And also, last but not least, is Resident Evil 4, which I believe, in my opinion, is is a game that's close to perfect. It's one of those games that really left an impression on me on as to what a game can and could be, and it's just a really nice blend of a lot of great elements that are still being used to this day. That's it. I guess KhAnime is a bit holed up
Hmm?
as he's muted for some reason.
Okay, that's weird.
That's a little odd.
Technical diff.
Okay,
Okay,
I left a
so
few seconds
here's
ago,
the-
so
Yeah.
Did everybody go?
Did everyone
um,
do their the games that stood
No.
out for them? Retro games that stood out for them?
yeah, I did mine.
Okay, then I guess we go to the fourth question, which is, eventually, what games or systems are you planning to play or get legally?
Well, Sin and Punishment 1, that's
Nice.
already Virtual Console. The Xbox, because of Blinks, I want to play Blinks so much. I was interested in back in the day, but never got the chance to buy the console or to know someone who had the game, so yeah. Um, Okami, need to get that.
That's a
And
damn good game.
Bow Tie, The Sun is in Your Hands. I think there are two of them, so I want to get those two.
Yeah, those are okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Mr. Red Fox?
Okay, I have all the retro systems I really want. So, I have all the ones I want. Like, there's more.
Are we on the new question? I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, we're on
Yeah, it's
eventually.
alright.
What games or systems are you planning to play or get legally? And I think Tuber went, or was it? It was. I think it was Shadow.
Shadow. Yeah,
Yeah,
Shadow.
Shadow went, and then I'm going now. Basically, I have all the retro systems I really want. So for me at this point, it's just getting like certain games. I really want to get a. I don't know. I really want to get. I don't know. I have everything I really want. I have all the games because I don't collect retro games for to have a shelf full of shit. I like they're games that I want to play the original version of, but I have everything because either I got it like years ago when it was cheaper, or I just went and got the Japanese version. So I don't know. I have everything. I have everything I want. I'm good.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
Really, the only, I'm about the same way. Although, I want to get a Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
My brother had one back in the '90s, but he didn't have no games for it hardly. But I'm looking now. There's a lot of games we didn't get, so it's like either I can find an American one and actually play the imports, or just get a straight up Japanese Saturn. There's that, and really, in terms of other retro consoles, probably like Japanese versions, like maybe a Super Famicom or Mega Drive or something.
Okay. Well, I guess that leaves me. Yeah, like Mr. Red Fox. I got the retro consoles that I want, but just a couple of games that I wanted to pick up was Fear Effect 1 and 2 for the PlayStation 1. Really been meaning to get into those games. Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 for the N64. I like the wrestling games like No Mercy and WCW versus NWO, and Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 this has like a Japanese federation with also some American wrestlers in there. That was Japan only, so I wanted to import that. Also, Castlevania Area of Sorrow, because when I purchased that game years ago, when I didn't know any better, I had received a pirated copy, so I want to get an official copy down the line. And last but not least, Sin and Punishment for the N64.
All right. Uh, in terms of I said consoles. In terms of games, I got too many to name. I got like I said last night. I got a wish list of every console I own. And I have like a Amazon wish list for every console I own. The last game I added was Dynamite Headdy for Sega Genesis.
That's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I've heard good things. I just never played it. And it was that game and Vistar.
That game is good.
Uh, like I said, I got too many to name. We be here all night. And, so everybody go with this one too.
Yeah.
I'm already.
Yeah, I would say
Oh,
No,
Oh,
Kenosha
not-
can go.
probably the SNES and the SNES and the Dreamcast. And what games I own was Super Mario RPG, Super Mario World, and
Shadow, you got some feedback in the background.
let's see, Street Fighter 3 for the Dreamcast, and I don't know what. I just hear a lot of interesting things about the Dreamcast. I was like Skies of Arcadia. I know Mr. Red Fox really likes that, so maybe I'll check that game out.
I'm gonna tell you right now. If you're gonna get Skies of Arcadia, even though I love the Dreamcast version, don't get the Dreamcast version. Get the GameCube version, because the GameCube version, like, there's things that aren't good about the Dreamcast version that they fixed for the GameCube version.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's the price is kind of high for it though.
Yeah,
That's
but the
okay.
price is high for it either way you go. I mean,
Yeah, that's true
if you
too.
get the GameCube version, it's like, I want to say $40 or $50. If you get the Dreamcast version, it's $30 or $40. So either way, it's it's not the most pricey game, but it's up there.
Okay. Trying to think of any other games I can think of in terms of recently added to my wish list. I think there is. I can find it. Wait. Where is it? Oh, there's one. Anyone play Einhinder on PlayStation 1?
Oh, that's a good Square
Yep.
Enix game.
That's the shooter, right? The side-scrolling shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I heard good things, but I know then it's rather expensive. But
Yeah, that one's a pricey one too,
It had a limited run,
but it's really good.
but it is really good. Yeah.
all right, I think we're pretty much done with this topic. The next one is you can bring back a franchise, a company, once popular genre, etc., back to today's gaming. Just we're gonna get our feet wet just a little bit into today's gaming. What would it be?
Shining Force. Shining Force, developed by Camelot.
Yeah. Who would you get to make it though?
The team that did the Golden Sun games.
Yeah, but would they drop what they're doing now to make Shining Force again?
I mean, to me, it seems like all they're really doing is like Mario Tennis You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Golden Sun didn't do as well as they wanted it to, so yeah, I'd like another Shining Force. Although the spin-offs they did, like that were like like dungeon crawlers, where you just killed a lot of enemies, then destroyed a monster generator. That was weird.
What's the name?
Yeah, there were spin-offs to Shining
Yeah,
Force.
Shining in the Darkness, I think was one of them. I think that's one you mentioned, like
Well,
the dungeon crawling one.
not that was for the Game Boy Advance, but they also did like PS2 Shining Force games that were
Oh
like
no,
that
that's
were just beat 'em ups, and the graphics were really nice, but they were just beat 'em up. Because I think two of the characters are in Namco cross Sega, cross Capcom for the 3DS.
yeah, Project Costume.
They're pretty. I mean, they weren't terrible, but they weren't Shining Force games.
Yeah, I hear you. Sometimes I try to pretend that those games don't. I don't really count them as part of this series, but I
Yeah,
mean,
well, they are. I mean,
yeah,
they're
they
good
are.
games by themselves.
Yeah.
If they hadn't tried to attach it to Shining Force, they probably would have done better. But they kind of fooled people. Now this is a Shining Force game. No, it's not. Like
Exactly.
tangentially related to it. It's like Tingle's Treasure Quest. Like no one gives a shit about Tingle. Go away.
Yeah.
No one cares. Well, if I was gonna bring back a retro game, I'll tell you what I'd bring back. A retro game or franchise. I would bring back NFL Blitz.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would
yeah,
bring
we should
back
bring
NFL
back,
Blitz.
bring back EA games.
Well, yeah, basically, I would bring back all those games that they made, like NFL Blitz, because that was Tiburon originally. Even the spinoff was pretty good. I'd bring back NBA Jam. I'd bring back with the same announcer. He's on fire. Boom, shakalaka. I'd bring back. I tell you who else I'd bring back. I'd bring back the people over at Blizzard that made Lost Vikings. I would bring back. I would bring back the part of Treasure that made Castlevania 4 and Dracula X and Rondo of Blood, like the old school, like traditional Castlevanias. Because I know people like Symphony of the Night, but I'm old school. I don't like all that RPG mixed with my Castlevania. I want straight up going from area to area, fight a boss, move on to the next area. I don't need all this. Oh, well, you got through the castle, you fought death. Oh, guess what? We reversed the castle. Now you got to fight through another castle, bitch. I don't like that shit. No.
Oh wow. So that means you must be one of the few that didn't care for Symphony of the Night.
Actually, I did. I 100%ed that game, and that's the thing I didn't like. I didn't like the fact that in order to 100% that game, I had to go through another fucking castle in order to 100%. I didn't like that shit.
That's another game. That's another game I meant to add to my a game that stood out for me. And that's one of them, Symphony of the Night.
Which is weird because I like Aria of Sorrow and Dawn of Sorrow, which is basically the same shit, except
Metroidvania.
Yeah, it's the same shit. I mean, which is weird. I just didn't like that whole flip a castle on me.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to mention bring back like the old team. I would like the old Rare come back. Make a real sequel to Conquer. Maybe bring maybe a true sequel to Perfect Dark and show these companies how to make a real first person shooter. Yeah, I would want the old Rare to come back and make some games.
Okay.
Yeah. I do too.
We all want the old Rare to come back. Let's have a moment of silence for Rare.
So you guys are talking.
Go ahead.
You guys were talking about which franchise, company, or genre you want back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I skipped one. You guys talk about what? No, I mean that. What retro games are you currently working on? I think I skipped that one.
I guess we'll come to it after.
Yeah,
Oh, never mind. Okay, so If I could bring a franchise or company back, let's see. I think Hudson, because I just want Bomberman out of Konami's hands and
Yeah.
do
Me
something
too.
like
What? You didn't like
Bomberman.
that Fantastic Bomberman Zero?
They were
I'm
making
sorry. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah.
they were making a 3DS Bomberman game.
Yeah, and Konami canceled it
Yeah, it's bad.
I
because they're
was,
stupid.
yeah, like
So
it's sad that a generation with no Bomberman, no Bonk, no Bloody
Exactly.
War. Remember those games of
yeah.
PS1?
Rocket Knight Adventures.
That's
Oh
Konami.
wow, yes. And so I just want Bomberman back or Hudson back. So I want another game like Bomberman 64
Yeah.
and the sequel to it. I want another game like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can see.
Darkstalkers and Rival Schools. Come back, please.
Yeah,
That'd be
I'm
nice.
adding Power Stone because I
Oh
like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Power
yeah.
Stone. Yeah.
Power Stone was the game too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Oh, I know this isn't a retro game, a retro thing, but it started in retro things. Namco Bandai, Soul Calibur, bitches, Soul Calibur,
You know, I
And
was
not
about
this-
to put that.
and not this shit with like a super meter. I need something like Soul Calibur 2.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that'd
hey,
be awesome.
I
That'd be
got
awesome.
another one. Tekken, the new now they got super combos gauges.
Yeah, that's just oh god, that's so stupid. Like, remember when you actually had to learn how to use a character in fighting games, and you didn't just fill up a super meter and then pull off a unblockable attack. You actually had to learn some shit. Oh
Wake
man,
Up
that was
Ultra.
yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I would love a resurrection of Soul Calibur or Soul Blade, as some would call it.
Well, it was originally called Soul Edge, and then like Soul Edge in the arcades, and then when they put it on the Dreamcast, it was Soul Edge, and then Soul Calibur or Soul Blade, and then when they just finally got the name right down, they changed the Soul Calibur too, which I'm okay with either name because the game's freaking awesome because it had Tacky in that
That's
tight outfit.
Oh my gosh, how can I forget?
And Ivy
Oh,
with
man.
that whip. Whoosh-ah! And of course, my favorite character in that entire damn game, after the theme characters they had in the second one, Mitsurugi, who was just, even with the bad translation, was so awesome. Bad dubbing, sorry.
That's just added to the charm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The name is Mitsurugi. Remember it.
Yeah, like I said, there's no taking turns. We can just go on and on about the current topic. In terms of genre, I just say this so that it can go. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Bring back, well, in terms of being popular again, shoot 'em ups.
Yeah.
That's when I think when back then when we said shooter, that's what we thought of. Gradius, R-Type, Life Force. But now it's we know what it is now. But
Mhm.
So when you say shooter, you mean like a bullet hell shooter? Like,
yes,
Like, R-Type,
yeah.
Gradius.
Yeah.
Parodius. Oh man, I love
Lucia.
Parodius. Oh, that game is
That's
so
another.
fun.
Yeah, that stood out for me too.
Lazy
Parodius. Any game that lets you fly underneath some dancer lady's legs and shoot her in the shin to defeat her.
What?
You just that was Parodius.
Parodius.
Parodius. I swear, the people who made that game, they just put him in a room with a big box of weed. And that's how they made that game. They just smoked it and just kept on writing code. Yeah, and then you're going to shoot her in the lips. That's how you're going to beat that boss. It's a giant face.
Yeah, bullet hell games. I miss them like when they was like the shooter, but well, considering how the industry is now, it's niche.
I want Leica games again. I want more Leica games.
Oh, 2D platformers. Well, I say that too, cause look, you guys know I'm a platforming maniac, so
Yeah, we saw those Mario Maker.
I'm
posts.
I'm sorry, guys. I got
You can never have too many platformers, especially today. You know.
Yeah, because you don't have it. I mean, the only company really
Exactly.
kind of holding it down with that type of shit is, you know,
yeah,
the big N.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, like I said, anything else you guys want to tackle?
Just one thing I'd bring back, beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
because
Yeah.
sometimes you just want to sit down and watch a dude walk from left to right or from right to left or down or up, beating the shit out of random dudes standing around near a garbage can. You know, look, everyone should be allowed to play a game where you can knock over a garbage can and find mysteriously a hamburger or an apple and eat it for health, and then keep on rolling along, beating the shit out of random people. I mean, the
Doesn't
only
make
real
sense,
beat 'em
but
up
who
we have
cares?
left. The
All
only real
right,
beat 'em up we have left is Yakuza.
Yeah. We're joined by the Look Brothers. This guy, he does some retro gaming. He's y'all need subscribe to his channel too. He's pretty good. Say hello, sir.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, what's up, man? How you
What's
doing?
up?
Hello.
So I had joined first off, but some reason my computer defaulted my microphone as my speakers, and I couldn't hear anything, and I could not figure out why for like 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah,
All right.
Google, that's just Google. Ugh.
Google sometimes acts like a little you-know-what, and you gotta smack it around and it gets itself back together again.
A little percussive maintenance doesn't hurt.
Whatever works for you.
So, what's the topic of discussion?
Right now we're talking about if you can bring back a company, a genre, a franchise, whatever the modern age, what would it be? But we can, but since you're late, you can talk a little bit about the other topics we already covered too, if you wish.
Okay.
You can so go, sir, if you have anything.
Well, let me review the topics real quick.
Okay, take your time.
Let's see here. What are your favorite retro consoles and why? Okay, I'll answer question number one. I'd say the NES because, one, that was the first console I ever owned. And it still holds true today. Like, I found out a couple months ago that an original Nintendo Entertainment System is worth more than a used Xbox 360 in some cases.
Wow.
And, you know, it's such a versatile system. You can drop a TV on it and be like, whatever.
Yeah, they were built tough, man.
But, all right, let's see. Question 2. What is your favorite console generation, excluding 7th and 8th? Again, I'd have to go with NES and Super Nintendo because that was my childhood. That's what I grew up in.
Yeah.
Now, you know, when the 3D graphics come out in 64, PS1, and stuff like that, of course, everyone was like, oh my god, this is awesome! And, you know, of course, that changed the gaming market forever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we was talking about that too, and I like we was talking about graphics like early 2D gaming. You know, if everybody wanted 3D this, 3D that, PS1 and N64, but I stuck true to the 2D games.
I would say that the
fun.
graphics in the 2D games they're pretty much timeless. I mean,
Yeah.
3D games. We were talking about how the 3D games. I mean, there's some of them we can go back to, some of them not so much. But 2D games, especially during the time of the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, and even the Neo Geo had some great 2D sprites.
Oh, the Neo Geo was excellent.
Yeah, Metal Slug. Let's see, Polestar, Blazing Star. A lot of
Fighters.
yeah, a lot of great games on there.
One of my favorite, it was a Neo Geo game. It was on the Neo Geo console, but it was also for the Dreamcast. Last Blade 2.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Such an excellent fighting game.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I was thinking of on my way home from work, that's why I'm joining late. I didn't get off until 7 o'clock, and I'm on Central Time.
Okay.
But one of the topics of discussion I wanted to discuss is, you know, retro type games. Retro is making a huge comeback.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, I've
And-
noticed that too. With all the you should check out video game price chart. Like some of the games just skyrocketed.
Yeah, they did. Well, not only games or prices, but I mean, hell, you got this random game that everyone's playing now, Undertale. I just started playing it not too long ago. Unfortunately, I'm not going to do a playthrough of it just yet, or let's play of it just yet. But it's the most simplest graphics you can ever hope for, and yet it is so damn engaging and so intriguing. You just want to keep playing it.
Mm.
All I can say is those that collect an S Super Nintendo or whatever, better get your games while you can. I got Chrono Trigger like 3-4 years ago for $50. Now for a physical copy. Now Chrono Trigger for Super Nintendo is like $115 on average.
It's worth it though.
Yeah.
It is very
Totally
worth it.
Yeah.
There's a CIB copy of Super Metroid at my local game store for 150. No, excuse me, I'm sorry, 140. And I'm just like, I want you, but I don't want to spend that much just yet.
Look, they come with the box and manual.
Yeah, I mean, I have the cartridge in my wall right now, but I don't have the box. I don't have the manual. I have nothing. And unfortunately, just those things often go for the same price as with the cartridge itself,
Yeah.
which sucks.
Yeah, those boxes, man. Although Sega did better with the boxes, but in terms of manuals, Super Nintendo got Genesis beat because Sega Genesis manual was all black and white.
Yeah,
It wasn't colorful like SNES.
probably gonna get flack for this, but I was never a Genesis lover.
Well, well, it's all good.
Yeah, everyone has their own proclivities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question 3 was what game stood out the most for you? We ranged from different games, different genres. Like we talked about Guardian Heroes, we talked about like Street Fighter 3, and I talked about Metal Slug as a whole franchise stands out because anytime the game you get food for points and you eat too much, you get fat, and the combat knife turns into a fork. That's awesome.
Let's see. It's hard. That's hard to say. There are so many. The first NES game I ever played was Zelda 1. And that was pretty cool. And then I got Zelda 2. I'm like, oh my god, this is completely different, but I still love it. I think, honestly, the one game that stood out most for me was Kirby's Adventure.
That game still holds up. It's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, it holds so much merit, and it came out right at the end of the NES's life cycle.
Yeah.
And they basically pushed the system's limits. Because if you notice, when you play it, it was like lag at some points when there's too many enemies on screen or there's too much shit happening.
Yeah.
So, but
the Kirby's Adventure was good. It's a good game, but my favorite Kirby is still Superstar on Super
Yeah.
Nintendo.
yeah.
Any others you got, sir? Before I get you to the next question.
Oh man, that's it.
All right. The question 4 was what other games or systems were you planning to play or get?
Well, I had already mentioned the complete inbox of Super Metroid.
Okay. Yeah.
The next one I'm wanting to get is Link to the Past.
Awesome. Yeah, I just got the cartridge. I only got 3 SNES games complete in box with manual and the whole 9. That's Super Street Fighter 2, Mario All Stars, and Final Fantasy 3, which AKA 6.
Yeah. I'm wanting to get. I have Mega Man 2, but I don't have 1 or 3, 4, 5, or 6, unfortunately, and I hate that because I want the whole collection.
Yeah.
But I got the NES, I got Super Nintendo. My wife has an N64. I'd say my next one that I would want to get, just for the sake of having it, because it was such a huge console war, is the Genesis. I won't play it much, but I want it for shelf decoration. Unfortunately, my partner, Sony Kega, he's not able to be with us tonight because he's working. But he's a Genesis lover. I'm a Nintendo lover, so we always constantly brass back and forth.
Oh man, I can only imagine.
Good times. I know. I'm more of a Nintendo too, but Sega Genesis did have some unique titles. The company Treasure did a lot of good stuff.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Golden Axe. That was actually a pretty good game. I enjoyed that one.
Yep.
Hard. I've never beaten the first one.
Nope. Nope.
I can beat ghouls and ghosts in Contra 3. What kind of? I don't understand that logic.
Have you guys played Alien Soldier for the Sega Genesis?
No.
Oh, that game is all. That game is nothing but boss fights. It is insane.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Boss Rush.
Yeah, and you like they never even released it physically. Like, in order to get a copy of it now, you have to like go and get like a cart made for it. Because initially, my friend had it on the Sega channel, and once you turn the shit off, like you lost your game.
Oh no.
Wow.
But I know a guy who got a repro of it, and that game it was made by Treasure, and all it is just boss fight, the boss fight, the boss fight, the boss fight, the boss
Oh
fight,
God.
with like little enemies in between to help you refill your items and junk. But other than that, just boss fight to boss fight. It's nothing but boss fights. It's insane.
I mean, if you're, not a casual player, that would be a good challenge, I suppose.
No, it's a case study in how Treasure makes their games. Because Treasure always makes their games like they're very unique. Like you know a Treasure game once you play it.
Oh yeah.
Mischief Makers.
Yeah, Mischief Makers, Super Castlevania 4. That's before they were Treasure. That's when they were still with Konami. But still,
Yep.
they have a very distinct style of how they make their stuff.
I want to go back real quick to the what game stood out. In terms of Konami games or SNES, you hear the usual Contra 3, Turtles in Time, but you don't hear too many people talk about Sunset Riders. I actually like that game. Still have it.
Which one was it again?
Sunset Riders.
Actually, I'm embarrassed to say I've never heard of that one.
It's pretty good. It's pretty much 2-player co-op. Cowboys. It's pretty over the top. It's like Contra. It's like Contra meet Cowboys.
Oh, really? Oh, sounds fun.
Yeah, you can actually go into bars and get power ups. Yeah, and sometimes it'd be a girl that comes out with you. I think we all know what's going on in there, but you get power ups for that.
Were one of those power ups beer?
Extra guns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, upgrades for your
Extra
guns, all types of cool stuff like that.
Hey, off topic real quick. Shadow Hero, do you have a bird in the room with you?
I think it's his television in the background.
Yes, but it's...
Oh, it sounds like a parakeet chirping in the background. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, let's see.
That's fine. I think, let's see. Number 5 was what retro games you're currently working on, and then we'd be caught up.
Oh, man, what retro games? Well, I can't give too much away.
It's all right.
See, we're working on... Oh, go ahead.
Well, Mother 1 or Earthbound 0. I bought it like in June and haven't touched it since, but and Final
On the
Fantasy
Wii
6.
Virtual Console or like a repro?
No, on the Wii U.
Virtual Console. Okay.
Yeah.
That's that unreleased official translation too.
Yep. And Final Fantasy 6. I've never played Final Fantasy 6.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to
Putting up my shield now.
Wow, I'm just playing.
It's like, now you have to leave, really.
You are banished.
I know, I'm sorry.
I got to take your gamer card away from you now. See, that's
How?
Oh man. Well, at least tell me you've gotten past Biggs and Wedge. I mean, you've gotten past the opening in Navarre with Biggs and Wedge in the Magitech armor.
Yeah, I passed that.
Okay, good.
Say, you hesitated. It didn't sound too confident on that one.
Like, I don't know.
All right. Any other? That's it. We currently caught up. And then the number six. You can bring back
Oh yeah,
franchise,
I think
company,
we went over that
genre.
one.
Yeah. And then we'd be on to the final topic after that one.
Oh, could I just answer? Can I just quickly answer number five? I'm currently playing Rondo of Blood. Just got up to death.
Oh, cool.
The
Oh
boss
god.
fight. It's a pain,
Rondo of Blood is hard.
but it's really good. I love the music in that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
I never played that version. The only version I played was Dracula X on Super Nintendo.
No, Rondo of Blood is way better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
I thought they were the same game.
No. No.
They, it, not really. No.
No, there's three versions of that game. There's the one on the TurboGrafx 16. There's the one on the MSX, and then there's the one that they downported to the SNES. The one that they downported on the SNES, I mean, it just it's not, the music is a little bit less than what it should be than on the TurboGrafx 16 or the MSX, but they took out like 3-4 levels, and
Wow.
how you could like basically switch characters at certain points and
Mhm.
like rescue people and stuff. Like the game's been butchered on the SNES version, but I must admit the music is still just a little bit not good. It's still pretty good though. But other than that, yeah, they butchered part of that game, which sucks.
So the game is hard, and they butchered 4 stages. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Well, the hardness isn't the bad part. It's just they butchered 4 damn stages. Like they disappeared.
Oh, that's another game, well, franchise that stood out for me. I don't know why I didn't bring it up. I will here. Prove it.
Earthworm Jim.
Yep. Oh man, it's like it pops out in front of you as soon as you turn the game on and you see the logos. It pops out in front of you. You see Jim posing involved, and then suddenly his pants drop down.
The cow launcher, the
Yep.
different guns, Earthworm Jim hitting people with his head as a melee weapon.
Yeah.
Just
But that
his body.
that third stage though with that water and you in that ship, oh my god.
Oh, this is the first one, right?
Yeah, the first one. And the second one, I'm talking about the second one too.
Yeah, the second one. I mean, both of those games were really awesome. Why did they need to bring that? They need to bring back Earthworm Jim.
They really do.
Yeah, and it needs to be just as disgusting. Like, I need a level where you're fighting in snot. Okay, I need a level where they bring back Bob the Goldfish.
Well, yeah, that screams 90s. That whole series does.
Yeah.
And
Just like-
Cypro.
Just like Toe Jam and Earl.
Oh God.
Earthworm Jim is the reason I have fear of worms. For real.
Because you're afraid that they'll eat you or something.
I was a kid back then. I was like 6 or 7. Earthworm Jim 2, the second boss, it was like a larva thing. I had to call my brother multiple times to clear that level because I had fear of that. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that
Everyone's
was the
got their
90s though.
favorites.
That was just straight up disgusting.
Like, here's the thing. It was disgusting, but yeah, you had the level where the boss was like you were bungee jumping on snot. You had to knock the enemy into the wall so this thing would snap and he'd fall into the pit of whatever. But because I think you had to go into some creature's digestive tract. But I mean, like, we had other games that went for the gross factor that were terrible, like Boogerman. Ugh.
Oh God.
Not only is the game disgusting, it's also really bad.
Yeah.
It's
Pick and
like,
flick adventure.
yeah, that game is just bad. It's terrible. It's embarrassingly bad.
Go on.
That's playing Sonic.
It's another game that stood out. I can't even think of it now. It was right in my head, but I might come back to it. Oh, there's a game. It's a fighting game. I thought it was pretty interesting. It's a clay fighter.
Yeah, that was a good game.
It was
Yeah.
pretty. It was over the top but fun. I miss when fighting games will try to be unique.
Yeah, I hear you. I
uh,
never played that game. Clay
it's
Fighter?
on the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and there's one on the 64.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was called 63 and a half or something like that. 63
Yeah.
and 2/3 or something like that. Because they didn't want to say 64, so they just said 63 and 2/3 or some junk like that.
They had a sequel between the two for the SNES. It was actually a parody. It's called Clay Fighter 2 Judgment Clay instead of Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Yeah.
Mm.
I really want to like Clay Fighter, but it always seemed kind of like if you didn't memorize all those damn combos, like your characters were useless.
Yeah.
Clay Fighter. Game is hilarious.
Just like this one fighting game I have on the Super Nintendo, but it just don't feel right because of the console it's on now. Killer Instinct.
Yeah, that's
My
one of the,
my soul was crushed
when
I
you
saw
heard
when I
that
saw
they were making that shit for Microsoft. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I used to be a huge Killer Instinct. Well, I still am a huge Killer Instinct fan. I had the handheld game on the Game Boy. I had the SNES game. I had the well, I shouldn't say I still have. I have all those games. I have the N64 one. I love that game so much that when I opened my business, I got the friggin' arcade machines for that game, Killer Instinct 1 and 2.
Awesome.
But I refuse to get an Xbox One for that shit they made for the Xbox One. I'm like, no, ain't gonna happen.
It doesn't feel the same, the newer one.
Yeah.
Alright, final topic. Whatever else comes to mind in terms of retro gaming.
Cake.
Emulation.
Whatever, I don't care. It's whatever.
Is emulation good or bad? When is it
It
acceptable?
depends.
When is it not acceptable?
It's acceptable to me. Emulation is acceptable if a game that you want to get is expensive and there's never been a re-release. One example is this vertical shoot 'em up on Super Nintendo. It's called Arrow Fighters. That game is like $350 just for the cartridge, and it's never been re-released.
Mm.
Another example is what's that one game? Pocky and Rocky 2. That's another one. That's hard to find.
And Mother 3?
Well, that never
think
came out.
that was Japan.
Yeah, but
That was never
only.
localized. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a translation
Yep.
on that game.
Yeah.
Another one, Little Samson.
Oh God. Before
Who did
anyone,
that?
before anyone says Little Samson, I know that the SNES versions of Little Samson are really expensive. I hear you, but if you get the Famicom version of that game, and you get the Famicom disk system, you can totally, it's totally way more affordable. It's like $30 or $40. So.
Wow.
I mean, and it's not text heavy, so you can play it with the Famicom disk system, and you'll be okay. So people, calm down. It's not all that expensive. People just
the American version is because the American version of Little Samson is like $800 just for the
yes,
cartridge.
the American version is expensive because the American version is like because it wasn't widely produced, and you get what you get. But I mean, the other versions are pretty good.
Is
Damn
that a
you, Steam.
platformer? Is that a platformer? Beat 'em
Yeah.
up? Okay.
Yeah, it's actually fun
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
because I've played it through other means. So
Mm.
Basically, like you play as this guy named Little Samson, who's this little kid who looks kind of like Nemo the Dream Master, sort of, from NES, but not really. And basically, he goes around, and you get like different other characters to join you. You get like a mouse and a dragon, and like I think a dude made out of rock or something. And they go around like fighting enemies. But like each of these characters has certain skills. Like the mouse can run up walls. Samson can double jump, if I remember correctly. and the dragon can fly. The Rockman has shitty mobility, but he has double the health of everyone else. So they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, and you have to fight these different bosses and junk. It's actually a pretty good game, but it's like the holy grail of collecting, though, because it's really friggin' expensive. So expensive. Like, people are friggin' trying to sell themselves in the streets for that game.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what like that's when I sort of approve on emulation because issues like that when the game is so rare and never got a re-release. Uh, but if it's and it's not just that either. Emulation, like if you're gonna emulate, do it on something do it with its physical buttons like a keyboard or a PSP. Don't do it on an Android or iPhone.
It's so obvious. And
Yeah.
so uncomfortable too.
Yeah.
It's like I see people playing like Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire on phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, how's that?
How's that even enjoyable? Yeah.
Yeah.
Even like N64 emulators they have in their phone, and it's just like that's just blasphemy right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so wrong. It's like, ugh, dude, come on, man.
I gotta have physical buttons.
I mean, if I was gonna, I mean, I'm not saying you should emulate, but if you are going to emulate, I'm just saying if you are going to emulate, my rules of thumb are this: if you have no other legitimate means of getting it, like, i.e., like it was never released here in America, so it's not localized and it's text heavy, then I would advise you to you can do that. For example, Mother 3. Never brought over. It's an RPG, so it's text heavy. Go ahead, knock yourself out.
Yeah, that's why about fan translations. Like sometimes you ain't got a choice. If there's no reproduction card, I'm going for emulation.
Do whatever you got to do. I try to stay away from reproduction cards just because, me personally, just because they tend, like whenever they do a repro, they're taking a cartridge that could be on the market, and they're taking it and they're cannibalizing it to make a reproduction, and that brings the overall price of such things up. So I try to stay away from repros. Like I said, most of my games that I have that are like Japanese only, I imported, and I have the original like Famicom or Super Famicom cartridges for it, or the discs for the disc-based games for the Famicom disc system. Mostly because, like I said, when they do a repro, they're basically like they take a cart and they cannibalize it in order to make a reproduction. And the less cartridges there are in circulation, the higher the overall price of the cartridges are. And so I try to stay, I don't want people to have to pay, do all types of weird shit in order to afford their habit.
Okay. Yeah. Well, anybody else want to tackle emulation?
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with it either. I think people because the problem is a lot of these companies have made their money already, and a lot of the games that you're buying from, they're not going back to the developers. They're going to flippers. People who are flipping the game. But do you think? But do you guys think the retro bubble is going to burst at some point? Do you think there's going to come a point where these games are accessible, where these companies are less lenient on the licensing?
I think the prices will eventually. I think the prices will fluctuate over the years, but I think there's going to be a general trend of the value of these games increasing as time goes on. Because what I've noticed is that a lot of these YouTubers that focus on retro gaming, like the Angry Video Game Nerd, like the more the retro games is brought to light, there's going to be like a younger generation that wants to go out and buy these games and try to play these games themselves or try to collect them, and so it's just going to bring the value even higher. So
Hmm.
The only way the retro market will burst is if you find companies who own the rights to these games, like Nintendo or Sega.